NATO's strategy is clear. They do not want Ukraine versus Russia. They want Russia versus the rest of the world. And this was always the Western attitude. You're either with us or against us. And we've seen glimpses of this attitude, first during the Quad meeting in Melbourne. And again last week at the Munich Security Conference, India's Foreign Minister S Jaishankar was also in attendance there. During every panel discussion, every talk, he was asked just one question. What are you doing about Russia? If Europe is helping in the Indo-Pacific, why aren't Indo-Pacific nations helping out in Europe? That was the question he was asked. Minister Jaishankar had this to say.
I don't think the situations in the Indo-Pacific and the transatlantic are really analogous. And certainly the assumption in your question that somehow there's a trade-off and, one country does this in the Pacific, so in return you do something else. I don't think that's the way international relations work. In fact, if there was a connection by that logic, you would have had a lot of European powers very early taking very sharp positions in the Indo-Pacific, and we didn't see that. We haven't seen that since 2009.
You see, security is not just European security. Security is the same everywhere, in the Atlantic, in the Pacific, in Africa. The factors may change, but the principle does not. Until recently, the West never cared about the Indo-Pacific. China could sail wherever they wanted, bully whoever it wanted. It was only when China's ambitions turned global that the West intervened. And even then, their bias persisted. I can give you the perfect example, nuclear submarines. India repeatedly requested this technology from the US. Each time it was rejected. Cut to September 2021, AUKUS was announced. The US agreed to share nuclear technology with Australia. No for India, yes for Australia. This was the American attitude throughout the last century. So obviously, India looked elsewhere, and that elsewhere was Russia. Right now, New Delhi's biggest worry is China, their piracy in the Indo-Pacific, their belligerence in the Himalayas. On that, Minister Jaishankar was unequivocal. He did not just talk about the physical aggression, he talked about China's debt diplomacy. The message was pretty simple and clear. Every country can make their own choices, but before that, ask yourself one question. What am I getting into?
Every country will look for opportunities and see what it can do. But while doing so, it's in their own interest to be prudent about what they're getting into, to do the due diligence. We have seen now countries, including in our region, being saddled with large debts. We have seen projects which are commercially unsustainable, airports where an aircraft doesn't come, harbors where a ship doesn't come. So I think people would be justified in asking themselves, what am I getting into?
From Munich, Jaishankar flew to Paris. He held talks with French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian, and the talks covered three major issues: defense cooperation, the Indo-Pacific and Ukraine. On defense, India has two projects in mind. One, making aircraft engines in India, and two, jointly developing a nuclear submarine. On the Indo-Pacific, India has a larger mission. The entire world is focused on Ukraine at the moment. Every journalist, every intelligence agency, and this could be a valuable distraction for China. So New Delhi's role is to keep Beijing in focus, to make sure that the world does not forget about the Indo-Pacific. On Tuesday, Jaishankar has the perfect opportunity, the European Union Forum on the Indo-Pacific. Every European foreign minister will be attending this, and Minister Jaishankar is among the speakers. The third issue during the talks was Ukraine. And let me quote from what the joint statement says. The two ministers reiterated their shared commitment to the principles of multilateralism and a rules-based order, and agreed to coordinate in the UN Security Council on issues of mutual concern. This statement sums up India's policy. New Delhi is not encouraging Russia's build-up. It is not condoning an invasion. At the same time, it is not spreading panic. No flight cancellations, no warnings of impending doom. India's policy is practical and peaceful. A, use talks to de-escalate, and B, consider the interests of all nations, not just the Western powers. What India is doing is a delicate diplomatic dance, and so far it's been working. Russia and the US are not complaining about India's position, neither are they trying to recruit New Delhi. It gives you an idea about India's strategic importance. The question is, what does India want to do with that importance? Focus on its neighborhood, or take a deeper view of European security? That's a pickle for the Indian policymakers. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.